Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Sara Freeman Smith. She is a catalyst for motivation in whatever task or role she considers, be it speaker, author, career and book consultant, recruiter, and an advocate for inclusion of individuals with disabilities as a blind person. Welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
You are welcome. You are welcome to the show, Sara. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are talking right now. We'll be talking about career reinvention and finding purpose, how to reboot one's career. So before that, I want to understand a bit about your journey, especially about the part when you knew mid-career, you came to know that, that there is a difficulty with your eyes,
Mhm.
and then how you
Oh,
felt it, how you saw it, how you land your career. I want that for the audience, Sarah.
okay. No, and that's an excellent starting point. Kai, I had started, have always been in the recruiting field and was in a leadership role mid-career, and just noticed that I was beginning to miss signage when I was driving and things of that nature. So, when we get at that point in age, I was wearing glasses, but they were not, heavy strength in glasses, and went to the doctor, and he said, wow, you were here just like 7, 8 months ago and your vision has dropped dramatically. Did you have some trauma, accident, been feeling ill, etc.? None of that. So he immediately referred to me to some specialists, and they were somewhat baffled, but initially there was, let's just take some tests and see what's going on here. Well, after subsequent, many tests and many evasive tests, I might add, they came back with some grim news. It turned out to be an autoimmune condition. And unfortunately, there was no cure. And more devastating, it was going to lead to my total blindness. All they could do is possibly try to slow the loss of my vision down somewhat, but there was no salvaging it at that point. So you can only imagine, in recruiting, I'm meeting people, I'm constantly out and about, and I was devastated. And as I state, I was somewhat, it took me back, and I had a time that I was suddenly on a pity party because I couldn't figure out, if I can't drive, how am I going to meet people? How am I going to review resumes? How am I going to go? But thankfully, with a good, solid foundation, faith, I took some time and I used some of the steps in my book that I had written 25 years ago, called Turning Stones into Gems. And one of the first things is the reflection page. And that's where I just had to sit down on my pity party and then begin to think about, yes, I may not be able to see, but gosh, guess what? I still could do everything else. I've just had to kind of reinvent myself. I had to figure out, I don't have to stop working just because I cannot see. I still have all those other skills. I just need to figure out a workaround. And fantastically, I had a good organization that allowed accommodations. And obviously, I had to go and get involved in some accessibility, using accessibility tools. And also, most importantly, and I advise this to anyone with any type of disability, is to get involved with support groups, others who have gone through some of the similar situations. And between those things and the passion that I had for recruiting and helping people find their purpose in their careers, then I was able to reinvent myself back then, some 20 years ago. But guess what? Fast forward, here I am. I'm thinking, okay, I am at the phase and season of my life I can kick back, but no, because of the pandemic and a lot of people trying to figure out, great resignation, didn't want to really return back to the helter-skelter rat race. That's when I realized, let me do an update of my book and also help people to really kind of home in on what their true purpose is. and see if I can help them find some passion like I have. And so I'm reinventing myself again in this third phase, I should say.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sarah. The way you put it, you make it sound very easy. The way you are smiling, you make it sound very easy. But I
Oh,
can
no.
tell you, it was not so easy. I
Oh,
want to understand your mindset at that point in time when you got that particular
mhm.
understanding from the doctor that you are losing your vision and that it might be a permanent thing going forward. What was the thing? I want to understand for the audience, for those people who are looking at life, facing difficult situations, health problems, different problems, and they just fear that if this thing is gone, their life is gone. And so
Right.
I want to understand your mindset, your motivation at that
Mhm.
point in time.
Right. Well, most importantly, what I had to come to understand is, and this is something, especially when you're facing trauma or difficulty, you focus on the things that are bad, that are traumatic, that cause you that pain. But what I had to come to understand, and thankfully, and I have to tell people, for me, it had to be my fundamental foundation in faith, because God revealed to me, and I knew it already. I still had a strong belief in myself. Did what I have make me less of a person? No, because my condition could not define my circumstances. So I had to take my blindness. Yes, that is devastating. But think about it, Kai. If I was mid-career and I still had a little bit of it, and it was starting to diminish. But think about people who were born that were total blind. Think about people that had other issues, but still did not let them stop. All I had to do was pick up my head from looking down and start looking up. And I could see, oh my gosh, there was a person that was a governor that was legally blind. There are people that are doing work that are still working. So focus and be grateful for what I still had. I still had good health. I still had a husband, a child, family, friends. It didn't diminish me. What I had to do first and foremost is believe, do I believe in myself and love enough about me to push? Because then I have to push, because I know it's not going to be easy. And we all know, if whatever you take on, it just doesn't magically, mystically fall in your lap. You got to work at it. And so when I found out, yes, you can do it, but you're going to have to, it's almost like learning how to drive a different way. We drive on one side of the road in America, but if we go to some other countries, it's totally different. We can't go to get in a rental car and immediately go, bam, we would have accidents. It causes, you got to take time to work. And that's what I focused on. I had to say, I either can do nothing out of fear or something out of faith. And I had to trust, if I took that first step, that there would be help, resources, and I learned to ask and use those things. But you got to start inward. You got to believe in yourself, understand yourself, know what I could do, but I also had to admit I cannot do that. But can I do it with some help, either from another person or from another piece of equipment, another method, that sort of thing. And I tell you, it was work and it was frustrating sometimes, but in the end, I was able to still contribute and still be that recruiting manager and leader. And then other people said, my gosh, if she could do it, what's my excuse? That's what I hope to leave with people. What's your excuse? You got to work at it. And I still work at it today, because trust me, there's some times I face some situations I got to figure out, now, how am I going to work this thing out? And eventually I can do it.
Right, right, Sarah. You can do it, and so can more other people can do it, especially after listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to understand, Sarah, for the difficult time for some people is that when some people have less support, some people have more support,
Right.
and some people have almost no support. How can they look for support or find support during those moments?
Right.
Who are the best? Especially, also, how do you engage with your employer? Should you
Right.
just look at it more from a expectation point of view, or do you look at it from a different point of view?
No. And see,
How you do?
as
I don't know how to actually how should one put it.
Right, right. Basically, I think what you're asking is about if you're in a working situation,
Yes.
what do you need to do to approach your employer? Well, I can address because I am in the United States. There are laws that state that individuals with disabilities are allowed accommodations, that you cannot discriminate just because someone has a disability. So first and foremost, my recommendation would be, since uh, obviously listeners may not be in the States, is to do some research and find what type of laws, regulations are in place for people with disabilities. I'd like to think, I know Europe is a very, very strong, system in place that has that, but I can't address to what each and every country. So that would be the first and foremost thing. But the first question you ask me is, what if they don't know anyone? See, that's the other thing, is that you have to begin to look around your circumstances and the people that it starts even with family. Family can be a help, but sometimes family can be a hindrance because they want to be protective. But you also have to say, for me, I want to be independent. If I were doing these things before, I still want to be able to do some of those same things again. Just, it may take me longer. I cook, but guess what? It takes me a lot longer to cook. But I still, at the end result, I've completed the task. So surround yourself with people who can encourage you. If you don't know anyone, the best way to find support groups, hey, we're all in social media today. All you have to do is type in whatever particular area that you know that you need help, you need support, and see if there are support groups, national organizations, international organizations. Most people, most disabilities actually start with international organizations, and then they break down by various countries and things of that nature. But the first place would be to start social media, to just see what those groups are, and as well as on the internet. And a good tool is, I'd like to mention, on my website I have a list of resources, disability resources, both from an employment as well as overall understanding rights and things of that nature. So it at least gives some people some starting points. I wish it was more international, but it's a starting point. It could lead, because again, don't be afraid to ask those questions. So sitting down with that employer, saying, this is my current situation. I still can do my job, but I need extra time. I had to explain to my managers, I can read a resume, but I can't read it in front of me, but I'm going to have to use a tool on my computer which reads everything, which takes a lot longer. But I'll still have an end result. I can still interview people, but I need extra time. So is that going to prohibit me from performing my job? No. So they said, okay, we can allot that. I no longer could drive to go to events. I got a car, a cab, or a car service to take me. That was a reasonable accommodation. So you have to kind of find out what is available, what are your rights, but more importantly, you need to ask for those accommodations. Don't wait for them to say, something's wrong, Sarah. Your work is dropping and your performance, you're not doing well. So what's going on here? Because you're about to be fired if you don't do this job. See, I didn't want, some people don't want people to know that they have a disability or that something has changed. But if you need and have to be able to work and to perform your job, you have every right to ask. We get not because we ask not. You have to be able to ask, in learning how to tell what tools you need to do in order to perform it.
Right. So the good thing is that you should not hide. You should share it with
Oh no,
people.
you have, at the point that you can no longer perform at the same level that you were doing, you must be able to ask, but then you must have to ask in a way, I can still do this, but I'm going to need this and this and this. And if you didn't have the accessibility tools, guess what? That is available to everyone. And most in the United States, a lot of them are free to an employer. They don't even have to purchase it. It is something through the state that they work with individuals with disabilities. So finding out what type of tools. I have a wonderful resource that's called Job Accommodation Network that lists a wealth of resources of the type of tools. So you go, oh, so if I had a screen reader, I could do this. I use my iPhone because it also has of screen reading. I can take a photo and it can read to me what's on a piece of paper. So it doesn't limit me if I'm away from my computer. But I have to tell my employer, I'm not on my cell phone on Facebook. I'm using this to read the handouts that just came across, in the conference room. So being able to express that and have a good understanding, with a manager, and also, of course, human resources, you've got to get them involved because they would obviously be able to help guide your managers who may not be familiar with it.
Right, Sarah. In
Hmm.
case either there is not much of support from employer, or you are self-employed and this sort of thing comes into one's life, how should one decide whether it is time to look for something different, recalibrate, or reboot
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
career? How does that work for some people? What is your advice, if any, on this?
Well, and again, I'm going to refer back as one of the first steps. It's that reflection time where you really have to be honest with yourself, Kai. You know, Sometimes we are in a pretentious mode. We want to be and think that we're, in a good spot. But that's when you have to sit down and really take an honest assessment of this is where I am. These are the things that I know I still can do, but these are other things I know I no longer can do or no longer have the desire to do and cannot even pretend that I'm going to be good at it. And that was hard for me because there were certain things that I really, really loved to do, but then I had to admit that I couldn't do it. Well, be honest with yourself and take that off. But I knew the things that I was good at, but I needed to do some extra work. And that meant to go and get some additional training so that I made sure, because again, because I knew I had a deficit, I wanted to make sure my work is going to be at its best. And it starts with that mental mindset, in that you also find others who also can be able to help you. That's why that support group, asking around, do you know of anyone? And getting online, LinkedIn is a wonderful resource as well. Because if you already are in a professional role, there's a lot of groups, a lot of networks, a lot of ways that you can find others that are in that similar position. But you have to start and be perfectly honest with yourself and sit down and then say, I'm going to move forward with the things that I know I can do. I'm going to focus on what I can do and leave alone what I cannot do and let that go. I just can't pick that up. That's too much extra baggage, and it's only going to weigh you down and cause you to be a failure.
Right, Sarah. Let's talk about the attitude of people around you, other people
Mm-hmm.
during in the employment. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of you talk about meets people, especially with blindness and employment. So I have also seen a lot of people I stayed in a hostel in New Delhi. So here a lot of blind people were there in the hostel because as per the law, as well as they were very competent also. Some people I know are very much doing a lot of good work into different sectors, and that sort of discrimination is not there in per se. But in terms of attitude, you cannot change people's attitude. What are the myths that are generally there, especially when blind people suffering with from blindness are there engaged with the work? I want to understand that mindset. Is it because just because they don't understand it, or is it because there is something much more deeper beyond that?
And let me clarify. I think I'm understanding your question. You mean, do people, how what they feel about individuals that are blind, that they're feeling that they're kind of helpless or totally dependent, or is it the mindset of someone who is blind in how they can be a part of society, or that perspective? What
Yeah,
clarify?
especially some people may also think that even the blind people or blind suffering from blindness people are working as per their capabilities and working very hard, very good. But some people may still look at it as much more of a different sort of a disability, looking at it, okay, they may not be able to do it as much. Is it out of sympathy, or is it
Oh,
out of
God.
another sort of a feeling?
Oh, right, right. No, and I think that that is one of the other things, is being able to dispel that myth, because Blindness does not prohibit you from not only working, but having a social life, enjoying
Right.
sports. Would you believe that there are adaptable sports? If I wanted to, if I was a runner, there are people that run alongside and run marathons that are totally blind. There are individuals that have a blind golf association, bowling, baseball. So they're adaptive sports that people with blindness, and then on a social perspective, because of the fact of so much technology, you have, voiceover on television and movies. I go to the museums, they have tactile tours where they sit down and they tactically describe photographs, but then they also may even have a replica of some of the things, items that are on display, so you can feel and understand when you go through that museum what you are experiencing and seeing. So it is dispelling the myths that, oh my gosh, this person can't go to the theater. Yes, I can. I put headsets on. Someone's describing what's going on the stage. It's a wonderful experience. So, but if you don't know about this, if you're not involved with other people in organizations, and you go, this person, how did you learn about that? Well, I can't tell you, but let me go get this person, and that person tells you, and that's how you connect. But it's coming out of I want to say coming out of a cave and just letting people experience and see that blindness is not something that is, that you can just go put them in the back corner and leave them alone. No. Learning how to navigate. They have tools that you could put earbuds in, and you also, if you've learned your orientation and mobility with your cane, you can confidently walk and go into places because it'll tell you you're entering the front door of the building. It's over, it's 12 o'clock, it's 3 o'clock. That's how individuals can kind of boost their esteem and understand that they can truly have an independence. But you will never know that if you don't ask and get involved with other support groups and organizations. So you got to come out of the shell.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now you talk about two things. Firstly, is from pity party to a propel party. How does
Mhm.
one do? You talk about faith, passion, and perseverance that helped you. How should people look at faith, then again passion and perseverance? Because
Right.
not everybody will look at the pity party
Right.
as going towards a propel
Mhm.
party. Some people get very
Mhm.
devastated by any untoward news.
Right. Well, for me, Kai, faith, first of all, you have to have a fundamental belief that we are all put on this earth for a distinct purpose, and that our purpose, our situations definitely do not have to define who we are. And we start from the inside. It is an inside outside. And unfortunately, if you already had low self confidence, low self esteem, and then you're faced with a disability, that's a double whammy. You got to pick up yourself and say, you have value. Don't think that you're a discard or a piece of junk. And that comes from that inner faith. And for me, it's my God. I understand that there are various religions across the world, but you must know that there's a higher being in charge. So begin to go into that faith, that quiet time. But then you have to figure out, what is it that I would love to do, even if I wasn't paid to do it. And for me, I always love to recruit, and I always love to encourage and inspire people. That was my passion. That's my calling. I could do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. So if that's my passion, then I know that I'm going to be equipped to be able to do that. I have to lean into those reserves, and I had to say, I was already there. I'm not undoing myself. I'm not less of a person. I'm still Sarah. I'm still the mother. I'm still the wife. I'm still the friend. I'm still the relative. I had to let my family know, yeah, don't give me this pity party and tell me, oh, I'll go do this for you. Let me see if I can do it for myself. Just give me a little bit of space. Tell me where this is. Tell me what that is. And don't move this, because I put it here and I know where it is. So being able to start with that passion, and then you have to push, persevere. It's not going to come overnight. We're in an instant society, right? Nothing happens overnight. You got to put the work in. You got to persevere. And then suddenly you look up and you go, I'm in a good spot. Not only am I feeling good about myself, but others people can be encouraged and inspired because you're not sitting and saying, oh, the rest of the world is just coming to an end because I can't see. But I can still breathe, I can still move, I can still walk, I can still do all these other things. So what about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And now let's come to your book, From Turning Stones into Gems. It's a nice name you have chosen for
Yeah.
the book. It actually explains the meaning of the book. So, who is this book for? Is it for everyone, or is it for a few people?
Well, actually, I would probably say it's for the person who is sitting and hopefully listening and saying, you know what, it's okay what I do, but I feel like I can do a lot more. I just can't quite figure out what that may be, what that is. It's for that person. It also could be that person that says, you know what, I've been doing this job for so long. I make great money. I have all the prestige, but I'm not happy. I really want to do something different. But how do I go about reinventing myself and having that confidence to go convince someone I'm going to do a whole 360? So it could be for that person. And it also could be for the person who's never ever worked a day in their life and just say, I don't know what I want to do. I have no clue. And lastly, it is for, those people who've done so many things across their lives, 4, 5, 6 times they've done different careers. But home in on finding out truly what that passion is. And when you begin to ask, I have an action planner, you begin to ask yourself certain questions, certain things become a lot clearer, because most of the time it started out when we were very young. We just got either discouraged by our own belief or family or friends saying, hey, you can't make a living in that. That's stupid. Why would you want to do something like you're too smart? Go be an engineer. Everybody in the family is an engineer. So you be a miserable engineer, but you really want to be an artist. Well, maybe this is the time you take that time and say, you know what, I'm going to pour some investment in me, and I'm going to maybe start looking at pursuing that art career after all. But how do I start? One step at a time. So that's what the book is about and what people can pick up from learning. I have some tools in it, some career assessment links, as well as an action planner and a prayer and a gratitude journal, because that's where it really fundamentally starts. Taking that quiet time, just stealing away, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, just thinking and just opening up yourself to the possibilities.
Absolutely. There is much to learn from your book, Sarah. There is much to learn from you. There is much to learn from your life. I'm sure a lot of people would like to connect with you and do all these things, learning from your
Mm-hmm.
life, your book, and
Mm-hmm.
what you do. So, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Fantastic. The best way is to go to my webpage, and it is www.u, the letter U, the letter R, GEMS.com. I wanted to say You Are Gems, YOUARE, Gems, but I couldn't write all that in a website. So it's the letter U and the letter R in GEMS.com. Check it out. You can reach me via email, but also access some of those free resources that I stated. So that is the best way. And I would love for anyone to reach out if they have any type of question and need assistance.
Wonderful, wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Oh, thank you. And everyone, know your value, and you are gems.
Indeed.